Brief introduction of mine. I'm a founder and director of a company called Blueinfy. We operate from India. Before starting this company, I worked with NetSquare, Chase Bank, IBM, and Foundstone. My primary interest is web security research. I write a lot of papers for security focus, O'Reilly, DevX, Inform-IT, etc. I released several tools which we are going to see today. WS Scanner, Scan Web 2.0, AppMap, AppCode Scan, WS Chess, etc. Published some advisories on .NET and Java servers. I co-authored some of the books called Web Hacking, Hacking Web Services, and one of the book which is going to release next month is Web 2.0 Security. Today's agenda will start with Web 2.0 overview and security concerns. Then we'll look at Ajax security in detail, and then we'll look at web services in detail, since these two are the two critical components of Web 2.0 apps. Some trends: 80% of companies are investing in Web 2.0 services as a part of Web 2.0 initiative. This is like recent McKinsey 2007 global survey. By the end of 2007, 30% of large companies will have some kind of a Web 2.0 business-based business initiative up and running. This is Gartner's finding, and it is suggesting by 2008 web services or service-oriented architecture would surge ahead, which we are all seeing nowadays. Every new application is coming up with a Web 2.0 framework, or old applications like Yahoo Mail, which is now migrating to a beta Web 2.0 based Yahoo Mail and such. So how Web 2.0 application would look like? What you have is your local application where you have your database and authentication servers running over here, and you have a web services through which you are talking to the rest of the world over internet. Your client-side application running in browser may be running with Ajax, maybe running with a rich internet application over a Flash, or the key components of these applications would be HTML, JavaScript, and DOM, which is interactive, get changed. Interesting part is on the other side, where you have internet which is connected to weather, news, documents, email, bank, trade, RSS feeds, blog, etc. So you are, from your start page, pretty much you can access your emails, you can access your trading account, everything at a one page, and that is a front-end application. And interestingly, on top, your own application can be working as a web services and integrated into another's application as well. So what we are looking at over here is like internet, which defines network of networks. Now Web 2.0 is something like applications of applications. So like one application is integrated into different applications, and whole new term has come into picture called mashup. There is a website called webprogramming.com, which is releasing, keeping the statistics of all new mashup application, and they are saying every week 2 or 3 new applications getting added in this framework. If you look at the layers of Web 2.0, we have 4 layers. I've divided layers into 4. One is a browser layer where Ajax, Flash, RIA, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, widgets, which is like someone says widgets, Google is saying Google gadgets, and such. So there are different terms, but essentially a widgets is something which can integrate into your application in a small portion of your DOM context. Then we have a structure. Usually in a Web 1.0 application, you see there are just one structure which usually pass back and forth. You send GET or POST request with a name and value pair, which is hitting to your web server, and web server will send you HTML response back. But if you look at Web 2.0, there are whole new of methods which have come into picture after introduction of XHR. So we are seeing XML, JSON, JS object, array, and many different structures which we're going to see in detail. If you look at the protocols, we have a JSON RPC, REST, XML RPC, SOAP. So there are various different protocols coming into picture as well. On a server side, we are seeing services. We are seeing SaaS framework that is called Software as Services Framework, or Open APIs. So essentially, this is a server layer which is also changing. So you don't have a traditional ASP or ASPX pages running. Now you have ASMX pages, which is like a web services pages, or a JWS pages, which is Java Web Services pages and such. Oops. Technology landscape would something look like this. You have a Ajax RIA client on the top, you have a traditional web client below. It is talking with web server, it is talking with a scripted engine, and then it is talking with your application server and integrated framework, which is running with ASP.NET or J2E or whatever. And then there is a web services plugin, which is actually integrated into your application framework, which is pushing entire application into web services, which can be remotely invoked. It is like a traditional RPC services, but it is like an application-based RPC services, which we are seeing. And then that piece is talking with database. Looking at the Web 2.0 security concerns, complex architecture and confusion of technologies is creating some of the loopholes and implementation level bugs. We have already seen some of the worms like SAMI, Yammer, Spaceflash. This is attacking MySpace. This is some of the bugs attacking Yahoo. We have seen some of the bugs on Google as well as such. These all bugs are usually, if you look at this worm, they are leveraging XHR calls to interact with the application to the browser. Ajax and JavaScript client-side attacks on the rise. Web services attacks and exploitations are going on. Flash clients running with a risk. You can decompile it, download, decompile, and such. Now we'll see some of the Ajax security attacks and defense. We'll cover some of the basics. We will cover some of the structures and streams. We'll see how you can fingerprint Ajax technologies. We'll see scanning and enumeration, cross-site scripting and CSRF with Ajax. There are traditional XSS and CSRF. This is like XSS and CSRF with Ajax. And we'll see some of the secure code base. Ajax is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. You have HTML, you have a CSS, you have a JS DOM. Then JS will make essentially XML HTTP request object. This XHR object is essentially implemented in 2001 by Microsoft for their Outlook, and then in 2005 Google Suggests has picked it up, and all of a sudden it has become a big thing. But XHR is lying there for 2001, so it's not a new technology as such. It is just the implementation of this XHR is picking up around the world. XHR has capability like from a traditional browser you can't make socket calls, but you can imagine that XHR is essentially your synchronous or asynchronous socket call, which you can make which you can make using same origin policy. So as such, you are following same origin policy, that is fine, you can make that call. So XHR will make a call. This can be asynchronous or synchronous to a web server. Then web server will talk with your XML middleware, text, whatever, and then it will grab your database and resource and funnel it back. Ajax sample, this is a sample code. On top we are initiating the XHR object. On this middle part we are opening a socket, http.open get mainstream main.html, and at the end you see true. This is true for asynchronous call as such. And then this is asynchronous call, so we are waiting for on ready state change. As soon as its state becomes 4, we execute certain routines. So this is the way, if you are doing something on your browser window, you are doing something on a left hand side, you can do such stuff and work around on a right hand side. As soon as thing is done, you will see the stuff on the left hand side. So yeah. So essentially you are seeing Ajax as a multi-threaded application running in your browser, and you don't have to worry about a refresh and reload and repaint the DOM and browsers and such. So that is where the whole power of Ajax is coming. And then actually you make a HTTP send null. If you are making GET request, HTTP send would be null. If you are making a POST request, then your buffer will go into HTTP send. Ajax data structure, Ajax is using various data streams. As I said, developers are innovating in this field. JavaScript can take place, talk with a backend resources now in natively, so you don't have to pass name value pair all the time. You can pass any stream to the server, you can grab any stream coming from the server. Mashup applications can be leveraged. It is important to understand these streams can be vulnerable. It has significant security impact. Some of the streams are JSON, array, JS object, etc. Let's see some of the streams. For example, over here we have a simple Ajax call. So we are making Ajax call in a browser over here. As soon as Ajax call goes, there is a nice plugin called Firebug where you can segregate the traffic which is going through XHR or a segregate traffic which is a native. Over here the Ajax call has been executed, and this is Ajax call. Next is This is a JSON stream coming to the browser. So over here, when you click a show profile, this is a call you are making to the backend application looking for, and then you can eval the call and inject the content coming from a JSON to your DOM contacts. Over here, this is a JSON stream. So you can see this is a response coming from a browser, the entire JSON object which you have integrated into your application. Similarly, over here you have XML stream coming to you. So as soon as you click the button, page source is XML. Ajax has element, so you can HTTP dot response XML. So as soon as you make a HTTP dot response XML, it will understand the stream is XML, and whatever you want to do next, you can do. Here is the XML stream coming to the browser, which get processed and put over here. Another stream is a JS object. You can pass now entire object. So what you have is a data as well as method. So it is like intelligent object you can pass from browser server to browser. Over here you can see we are evaluating the response, and over here we are using that entire object. So when you make a request, you can see that this is object. So here is the entire object has been passed from server to browser, first name, last name, number, and then 3 methods are also there: show first name, show last name, show number. So your browser can be acting as a dumb application, and all intelligence is coming as a different object from your server. Other stream is observing Ajax call with JS array. You can pass entire JavaScript array as well. Over here, complete JavaScript array is coming. Here is array, and it's as soon as it become array, you evaluate, it will become a part of your application contacts. So this is interesting. So essentially what we are seeing is like you can pretty much integrate any information which is you want to integrate. Like your server side application is running on Python or whatever, and your client side application is running on different technology, both technology no JSON, both technology no JS objects. So pretty much it is a seamless integration we are seeing. So this is on Ajax and data structures. Cross-domain calls has to follow same origin policy. So Ajax has to follow same origin policy. Browser security doesn't support cross-domain calls, but cross-domain callback with JavaScript is possible. Google, eBay, Yahoo already have implemented this callback functionality. This can be lethal attack since cross-domain information get executed on current DOM context. So when you when you implement this callback mechanism, what is going to happen is you are leaving your end client or end browser on his own because you don't have any control on them. What information stream coming from Yahoo or Google. Developers put proxy to bypass the same origin policy. So over here, for example, cross-domain bypass by proxy. So what we want to do is, for example, over here, if your application is running on xyz.com, you can't make a call to abc.com. So how you can make a call to abc.com? That's the challenge for developers. So what they are doing is, over here you can see it has created a proxy. So on a server side, they are running with a proxy.aspx. Then in that you can pass a URL. So server is hosting the proxy, and all traffic will tunnel through it. And whatever information you want to grab on the internet, it will come through that tunnel. So now if we make a call, and then there is an entire Ajax execution block here. So it has gone through a proxy, an entire JSON stream has come to you through a proxy. And second mechanism to bypass same origin policy is by script, since a script tag has not to follow same origin policy. So over here what we are doing is we are putting a cross-domain call which is available as services on Google, Yahoo or eBay. So over here when we go to a source, in a source you can see there is a block.example.org, which is a completely different domain, and at the back we are defining a callback. So what we are saying is, we are saying a client to send all information in a callback called profile callback function. So it will wrap around all the information into that function and send a stream to us. And if we, as soon as we get that stream, will get executed by this block, because their name is the same, profile callback is the same. So we get a stream coming through a third party or a cross domain call, and it is wrapped around a profile callback, so it will get executed in a context. So these are the two way developers are, or we can bypass the entire cross domain policy through it. Okay, let's move ahead. Oops. So this is on a cross-domain calls. Next is we want to do AJAX fingerprinting. We want to determine AJAX calls. We want to fingerprint AJAX framework. There are various different frameworks out there, like Atlas is for .NET framework, GWT, Mochiki, Dojo, Prototype, etc. So what you can do is you can, before starting an application level assessment, if you want to assess what kind of AJAX framework it is running with, you can use some of the tools. There is a tool which I wrote, it's called AJAX fingerprinting tool, which has some fingerprints for popular framework. So whatever your page you are assessing, you can compare which framework it is running with. Can help in assessment process, and even you can do a RIA fingerprinting as well if you are running with a Flash-based application hosted on Laszlo or such. Oops. AJAX attack vectors, entry point scanning and enumeration is first task. Then you look for a cross-site scripting attack, look for a cross-site request forgery attack. Client-side code reverse engineering is another possibility. Client-side code reverse engineering, by which you can identify the logic, because in a traditional application the whole business logic used to sit in an application layer running on a server side, but now a lot of business logic is shifting on AJAX side, so now you can browse through JavaScript and identify loopholes. Security control and validation bypassing, which is used to happen in old application as well as the 2.0 applications. Local privacy information enumeration, if you are using a Dojo. Dojo has an interface to flash local memory, so you can read the variables. So Dojo is writing something to this local memory. You can read these memory variables as well. And there are some of the AJAX frameworks which are running with a vulnerability for JavaScript hijacking and such. So if you identify which framework your application is running with, some of the tests you can do. How you do AJAX scanning? Scan AJAX components, retrieve all JavaScripts, since AJAX is residing in JavaScript. Identify XHR call. You grab the entire JavaScript file and look for XHR calls, whether this particular function or this file is making XHR call. Once you identify that you know that this particular file is something related with AJAX. Mapping function to DOM events. So what I usually do is like grab the XHR call, and below that whatever routines are implemented are usually changing the DOM. So it will make some changes. It may change the inner HTML, or it may change some of the links or such. So then in the next step you can see what changes it is making, and then scan code for look for these two high value target. That is, one is eval and second is document.write, because through these two calls essentially malicious content coming from a server or malicious content coming from a third party stream can cause XSS. AJAX serialization, AJAX processing various information coming through third party. Over here this is object coming, and for example this function you see document.write these.subject. So if someone has injected a JavaScript in your subject coming through your email, then wherever these calls get executed will be vulnerable to XSS. Similarly, someone can inject stuff in a JSON array or a JS array as well. AJAX and JS manipulation, JavaScript exploitation, XSS, identifying DOM, which we covered, eval, attack APIs out there, Beef, something called Beef, which exploit the entire browser sessions, and lot can be done like a session hijacking and keyloggers, as he said in a previous presentation. So let's see some demos. Okay, over here what I have is crawling. Okay, let's see the scanning. So over here what I'm planning to do is, what I'm doing over here is I'm scanning the application. There is a toolkit called Scan Web 2.0 which you can find on my site, where it is a set of Ruby scripts which I have written through which you can scan Web 2.0 application pages. So first script is something called Ajax Finger RB. So it is essentially for Ajax fingerprinting. So this is my target against which I'm running this script. So I say Ajax RB run against this framework. So here are some of the fingerprints for different Ajax Ajax frameworks, and it has found that this particular page is running with a prototype.js framework. Second is you can, for example, your application is running with an Atlas framework with a .NET. What you can do is you can use this scan atlas.rb, which is going to scan your page, try to identify Atlas framework, and from which it is going to get the reference of the backend web services which Ajax is your Ajax page is making backend call. So for example, you run this scan Atlas, and this over here, what we got is it has scanned for Atlas and it has find one entry point to the system, which is a trade.asmx page. So your page in the front end is actually a Ajax application which is making a backend call to a web services which is called trade.asmx web services. Next we are scanning for flash. We are doing a flash finger and we are looking for a flash code and then parse the flash code and retrieve the critical information. Over here what I've done is scanning for flash object, and I got a parameter called search.lzx which is converting SWF files. So if your application is running with a Laszlo framework, which is another popular open source framework for Web 2.0 application, it will identify Laszlo files and internal scripts which you can download and reverse engineer and and try to enumerate more information on it. Fourth, what you're going to do is we scan the Ajax application. So there is a script called scan Ajax where we are scanning the entire Ajax page, and over here you can see what I've done over here is in the first I go parse the page. From parsing the page, I enumerate all JavaScript which is used by that particular page, and then go and parse each of these JavaScript, and I found one function which is say get JSON profile, and I run a regex for it, and I found eval call. I found first I found XML HTTP request call, then I found eval call, and then I found document.write call. So now you can link this all information which you have gathered, and you parse through the you see the entire stream which is hitting to your browser, and then you can identify XSS using this. So there is no one tool out there by which artificially you can say that this is a vulnerable to XSS, since it is a very complex parsing method or a complex JavaScript execution is going. So there is a manual intervention you need. So but you know that JavaScript files are like 1,000, 2,000 lines of file. From that you can target the certain part of the files which you need to analyze using this script. And finally we are going to do a URL grep. There is a script called URL grep where I go and grab all JavaScript and try to look for URLs in the script. So I can gather all different URLs. There are some false positive as well because it matches with the pattern, but I can find a lot of different URLs in the page. So since Web 2.0 application is nothing but like you are getting a one large JavaScript and then everything is a dynamical. So if you are crawling the web application, the traditional crawlers are used to go for hrefs and such, and then it map the entire application and crawl the application. If you run the crawlers against Web 2.0 application, it is just the one page, a large JavaScript coming to you, it will stop there. It won't identify different linkages as such, but this is the way you can grab all URLs and identify the linkages. Okay, so next is Ajax and RSS injections. Let's see some of the XSS as well. Over here, for example, there is a XSS with Ajax stream. So if we click here, we have a link here which is actually coming from some third party. So as soon as you click the link, there is a XSS, and Actually, this link is coming through a proxy, and it is coming from a third party resource. So whatever they have injected, you don't have control over it, and they have actually injected a script in a JSON array or a JSON structure. So that script will come to you and a browser will execute, since you have a document.write call or eval call in it. Similarly, you can have a XSS stream coming through XML, JS object, JS array, or JavaScript. Another interesting thing which a lot of vulnerable site has been discovered is RSS feed. Now people are using a lot of different RSS feed coming to there, and there are a lot of online RSS readers as well. So RSS feeds are another entry point to the browser. Injecting script to RSS feeds and AJAX call may get executed. Sometimes these are the one-click XSS, because you have to click the XSS, because RSS is a static feed coming to you. You can't inject a script tag into it, but what you can do is one can inject a JavaScript colon tag into it. So JavaScript colon tag will fit at the href, and then when you click the href, JavaScript get executed. So a lot of vulnerability were discovered by injecting on-click or on-mouse event, where one can inject the JavaScript. So for example, if you look at this demo on XSS with RSS stream, here is a little vulnerable RSS feed widget. So you can pick your feed, which you already configured. So if you look at the feed, your feed is actually coming through a proxy, the proxy.aspx. There are 3 feeds coming to you. One is from CNN, one is from USA Today, and one is from example.com. So then you are selecting one of the feed. Okay. So you pick your feed. We have selected the feed, and in the feed, this is a RSS feed. You can see the entire RSS feed over here. And someone has injected over here, you can see someone has injected link, JavaScript, alert, XSS. At this point, any arbitrary script can reside. As soon as someone click interesting news item, XSS will get executed. So you are taking these RSS feeds, which are totally untrusted feeds coming from anywhere in the world, and it may cause XSS if your RSS feed reader is vulnerable to these attacks. Okay, let's move to presentation. AJAX crawling. Crawling is the biggest challenge for AJAX. Crawling AJAX driven app, a challenge. Resources are hidden in a JavaScript. Simpler scanner will fail. Crawling should be with actual DOM context. Automated crawling with the browser is required. So how we can do that? I usually crawl application using something called Watir, which is a Ruby interface to IE. So I can drive IE through Ruby interface, and then what I can do is, like, as soon as a DOM get loaded in my browser, I can fire all different click events programmatically and crawl entire site. So over here, if we go for crawling with Watir, what we're going to do is, there is a page which is just sending one large JavaScript. So we call that page, and through Watir, it has clicked each of the links and made the entire and collected all href. Here is how Watir script would look like. You require Watir, include Watir, and then you are opening an instance of IE. You are telling IE to go to that particular site you want to crawl. So it will go grab entire in IE, the entire JavaScript will be loaded, and you have complete DOM get painted. So now you have hrefs and everything you can look. If you make a same call using a protocol level, just open a netcat and make that call, you are going to get just one JavaScript. So you won't be able to do anything else, because it is that particular JavaScript making actual XHR call at the back end, loading the entire DOM once again. So I do IE show links. I will get the list of links, and then in next I say IE.links to second number link, click that, collect link, third number link, collect that, and such. So this is the way programmatically I can control entire browser. At the same time, you can add some smart checks. For example, what I do is, like, I look for on click. And in on click, I look for whether it is making a JavaScript call or not. So that way I have two kind of links. One is a static links, and another is a JavaScript driven link. Whichever is a JavaScript driven link, I click that. If it is a static link, I just grab that. So this is on Ajax crawling. Defending Ajax, no business logic information on client side, do not trust third-party source coming to you, no direct cross-domain callback, try to avoid this cross-domain callback if you are a developer, filtering at a browser level before processing information, avoid client-side validations. No security in Ajax calls, proper data structure selection based on whichever framework you are using, avoid client-side validation, secure client-side calls like eval, document write, HTML tag filtering before serving. Quickly we'll look at the JavaScript Web 2.0 based JavaScript hijacking or CSRF with Web 2.0. What we have over here is if you are streaming, for example, you are making a request, GET request and streaming, I would say JavaScript array to you. What one can do is it can make an arbitrary request using JavaScript SRC. So I'm making a cross-domain request here. Since script is through which I can make a cross-domain request because it is not abide to SOP. So once I make that request, what I'm doing over here is I'm using I know that script is actually sending me, just a minute. I know that particular script is going to send me the information which is coming from Web 2.0 application is actually array. So what I've done over here is I overloaded the function array in my browser. So as soon as I hit the entire array, I load it into this function, and then I can pass the entire information which I collected to my site, which is a get.collect.aspx data true. So over here you can see the entire information has been sent from. So I collected array information coming from your target domain, which is you already logged in. You have send your, since I am using a script tag, it will replay the cookie. I will get the entire stream coming to me, and then I reshuffle the information coming to me to my site. So this is some of the dangers of using JSON and JS array. So what people are usually doing is if you are sending JSON, just wrap JSON to say / or some other character, so they by default they cannot be loaded, and your application know that whenever JSON array comes, just remove the forward and backward trails or whatever signatures you have sent, and then consume the JSON array. So this is on Ajax. Now we'll move to web services, attacks and defense. We'll cover methodology, we'll cover footprinting and discovery, we'll cover profiling and enumeration. We'll see some of the scanning and fuzzing technique with web services. We'll see some of the attack vectors. We'll do some of the code scanning, and we'll look for the defense filtering if we get time. Here is how you can assess your web services. You have insecure web services. On left hand side you have a black box testing. You can perform footprinting and discovery. You can perform enumeration and profiling. You can do a vulnerability detection. On white box you can do code or config scanning, follow secure coding principle, follow web services firewall, and you will be pretty much secure. Footprinting and discovery objective of essentially what you have is like your page is loaded in a JavaScript which is making backend call to web services. How you identify what kind of a web service is running on your domain or a target domain which you want to assess. So discovering web services running on application domain methodologies. There are two methodologies which I usually use, crawling and spidering. These are the actually primary methods. What you are doing is actually you are hitting the site and collecting the information. Script analysis and page scrubbing, and then you can do a traffic analysis and look for a JSON calls or look for a JSON RPC calls, and whichever resource it is hitting you, it can be a JSON RPC as such. Second method is a secondary discovery. What you can do is you can search. You can go to the search engines and ask search engines that this particular domain is running with any of the web services or not. And this is a dying one which is called UDDI scanning, which is pretty much dead now because you don't have a publicly known UDDI servers. But web services has a UDDI, something called like a DNS, where you go and ask for an IP address giving the host name. Similarly, you have UDDI services by which you can query different UDDI servers. If your network is running with a private UDDI, you can query and ask for different various web services. Primary discovery, we are crawling the application and looking for .asmx. Page scrubbing, scan the page, look for path like we did in Atlas. Recording traffic and look for XML, RPC, REST and SOAP-based JSON call. Page, what techniques we are using is a page scanning with grep. Then we do a simple crawling, scanning for Atlas references, where you can use a scan Atlas, and finally URL grep. So let me quickly show you one or two of them. For example, over here, what I'm doing is I'm doing a footprinting and discovery on the page, say page flags. This is a completely 2.0 application where I'm doing so if you crawl this application, when you make a GET request to the front page, you will get one large JavaScript, nothing else. But when you load the page, you have several of the JavaScripts and HTML page loaded. So what I did is I copy this entire page into my local directory, and then, okay, it is copying. And then I just run on all JavaScript. I run a command looking for ASMX files. So over here I run a command where I'm looking for ASMX extension, and on the front page, which is loaded, page flex has these many web services running at the back end, like address book, WS, alert services, content proxy services, core services and such. So it is running with several web services. If you load the live.com, for example, you will see one large web service is running at the back end with almost 120 methods on it. Crawling and spidering is pretty much easy. Fetching through Atlas we have seen, so there is nothing new here. We can go to the slides. Which one is this? Okay. Moving to secondary discovery, what you have is searching UDDI, which we have already covered, where you can search UDDI with a business services and key model. This is like a complex structures for it. Running queries against search engines like Google, MSN. You can use in URL and file type, look for ASMX. There is a tool which I have written called WS Scanner, which you can download, where it is doing, for example, footprinting. What I'm doing over here is you have to pass the Google API over here, and then you have to pass Amazon.com. For example, you are looking for web services running on Amazon.com, so it will take a permutation and combination of all different queries and look for Amazon web services. So over here, Amazon is running with these 5 web services on their domain. Similarly, if you go for Microsoft.com domain, Microsoft is running with 110 web services, which you can see. And on top, you can do a pattern matching where you are looking for, say, I want a web service is running with something related with Amazon. So you can do a pattern matching and run the services, and you get a list of web services running with Amazon name. So this is on footprinting. Once you have footprint and discovery of a ASMX file, you can call WSDL file. It is like a interface language file, IDL file for RPC stubs. This is a web services stubs. So you have a scanning WSDL, looking for methods, collecting input, output parameters, security implementation, look for binding point, map method signature, and then pretty much you can hack or you can assess your web services. Scanning strategies are manual invocation and response analysis, dynamic proxy creation. There are a lot of different tools out there by which you can create a dynamic proxy, and then you can integrate that proxy into your code. So whether, for example, WSDL.exe comes with .NET framework, which you can use, and that will create a C# or a VB code for you, so you don't have to worry about. There is an abstraction layer code. Auto auditing for various vectors, fuzzing, XML or JSON fuzzing you can do. Key part is a response analysis. Once you make a SOAP call, what you are looking for, look for a fault code or a fault string, because that is where 500 internal error and a fault code and fault string. Okay, next. Okay, we don't have much time now. Okay, over here, for example, I'm doing a web services vulnerability, so I want to do a parameter tampering. Wait a minute. Before that, I'm profiling and invoking the proxy. So for example, this is an application where I found an access point for a web services. So I go take the WSDL file. Again, a WS scanner has a feature by which you can do a vulnerability scanning. So I give WSDL file to my scanner. It will go and get the profiles over here. what you see is like entire WSDL file, and here is the profile of web services, where it is saying that it has a method called intro. Input is nothing, output is string. Get product info, input is string ID, output is string, and such. So now I know like what I'm supposed to send to the SOAP and what I'm supposed to get back from the SOAP message. So over here I can go and invoke it. So I start my listener and I select one of the method over here. So I'm selecting get product info. I invoke this method and send the envelope, and I get this response. So for example, first product information which I'm getting. And then you can do a parameter tampering using the same method. You can tamper any of the SOAP parameters which is hitting. For example, I'm sending dollar in ID field here. Instead of dollar, now I say I send a single quote or a double quote here. Now it will become the traditional web hacking stuff, traditional web 1.0, where you inject various meta characters and look for response patterns. Over here you get a 500 internal error, and then you look for the stack which you are getting in information leaks. Web services auto audit, the same tool as auto audit feature, so you can select which auto audits you want to do. You select that, and the tool will run against the, you can even regex pattern. You can select a regex over here which you want to filter. So if you have like a fuzz load of large, then you can select regex pattern, and that will be available in red color. So you can say that these are some of the interesting points you want to analyze. And finally, the web services fuzzing is there. Something called WS fuzzer, where you define a target, you define your fuzz load, you define your pattern matching load, and then you put a fuzz envelope over here. So I have these two files. For example, over here I am looking for 500 and fault code in my pattern samples, and in my fuzz load I am looking for, what is in a fuzz load? Okay, then over here I am sending hash fuzz hash. That's the where I want to make all injection of my fuzzing load, and I just click go, and the fuzz will start. It will make a lot of requests depending on what you have selected, and you can see the red where your regex patterns are matching. It will come in red, and then you can identify vulnerabilities into it. Cross-site scripting is possible through web services. XSS is possible through web services. It would DOM-based XSS via eval, JSON RPC based through DOM source of stream coming, and if it is coming from untrusted source, it may cause XSS. Injection flaws, you can make various different injections like SQL, XPath into your SOAP envelope or a JSON RPC that will go and hit your vulnerable code. Malicious file execution is also possible. You can append command with a pipe or whatever. This is the way. Everything is a traditional components or traditional test you use to make. You can make those tests through your SOAP envelope. Insecure direct object referencing is also possible, where you inject .. and try to see what you are getting back. Cross-site request forgery, this is interesting because to do a cross-site request forgery on XML stream, what you have to do is you have to generate XML stream from your browser. So for example, if you have an XForm, you can generate through XForm, you can generate XML stream, or there is a trick by which you can also generate a XML stream, which I will show in few seconds. Okay, then let me move to demos. Here is a XSS with JSON RPC. Say for example you have a show messages 1, 2, 3. When you click this, it will going to grab JSON stream. It will do a eval on it over here, and then it will do a document.write call. And this is a JSON stream which is constructed and sending to the server. So you make a first click, you will get the hello, and so on. This is a call which is sending to the server. This is actually coming as a post, and this is a response coming. And then when you click the third message, you get the error. This is actually a JSON RPC implemented in .NET. This is what you have sent, and this is what you got. So pretty much it is XSS through JSON. Similarly, if you go for, say for example, over here I have a XPath injection. So in XPath injection, you select get security token. if you send right credentials, say Sriraj as a username and password, you get a security token, this guy, but then you can bypass with XPath bypass with OR 1 equal to 1 OR. So you craft a XPath bypass character string and send it across, and you become a first user of the XML node. Next is malicious is fine, file access call is possible, cross-write request forgery, force XML through XML split. So for example, what I'm doing over here is you have a login page for trading application. You log in into a trading application. So you have sent your credential over here. Now you are going to a trading site where you are putting an order, say 20 Microsofts, and this is order which is going in XML stream. So this is a change which is compared to old application. Old application usually order place in a post or a get with a parameter strings, parameter and value. Over here it is constructing XML string and send it across, and you are getting that order is placed. And now over here, if you go and see what you have sent, this is what you have actually sent as a part of your post, XML version 1.0. Now interestingly, you can see there is a XML version equal to. So what one can do is, if I want to auto submit a form, what I can do is I can take a less than 2 version as my name in a hidden value, and remaining part I will put as my value in my form. So when auto click submit the form, it will put the string together and put equal to in between. So actually I will generate through a form, I will target the form to the target site over here, and this form will have this little form where I have dissected the stream from equal to. So now if I go over here, and this is XML stream going, here is my form dissection code. As you can see over here, what I have done is I have created a form, name by NC type, input is type equal to hidden, name equal to less than 2 version. I have put in a name, and then a value is in remaining part. So when someone come to this site, this page, it will generate a XML stream back to the target site, and it will cause a CSRF over XML. So this is the way, like, it has actually hit the site, it has constructed the XML stream, and we got an order is placed from completely different domain, which is separate from our trading domain. So this is the way various different things can happen. And finally, we'll move to code analysis, how you can analyze your code, your web services code for vulnerability, scan the code base, identify linkages, method signatures, and look for various patterns for SQL, LDAP, XPath, file access, checking on the validation, and code walking through tracing. This is a very interesting feature which you can use. So for example, over here I have a app code scan application which is capable of scanning scanning entire source code. So what I've done is I'm passing over here, I'm sending saying that I want to scan ASMX files, which is a web services files. So I want to scan those files, and then I select my code base, which is WS folder, and then I am selecting the rules. Over here, these are the rules which I am using, say web method /n/n. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the web method, which is actually the web method is essentially a web services method, and then I'm from a web services method I'm taking 2 or 3 lines below. So from that I get the signature of the function method. If a web method is session enabled, then I'm grabbing that. If it is a all public function from the file which I'm getting, I'm looking for a file stream, and I'm looking for a SQL command and select query if it is running on that particular page. So if I run this over here, I get all the signatures. So yeah, I got a public signature, I got this, these are the command. And now what I can do is the interested variable which I am interested in. For example, fs is the variable which I am interested in. I can trace the variable using this walk functionality. So what you can do is you can walk that function in multiple files, so you get the complete trace of your variable from where it is started and from where it is hitting. So you grab the variable which is coming in a public function, because you know that public function is actually grabbing HTTP request parameter, and then trace the variable, and if it is hitting to your database or it is hitting to your file system, then that's the vulnerable part. So that is it. And content filtering, regular firewall will not work. Client filtering HTTP will not work. You need a SOAP level filtering. ISAPI level filtering is essential. SOAP content filtering through HTTP module. So over here, if you write a simple iHTTP module and plug into your application, HTTP run application will come. Your iHTTP module will hit first before it is actually hit to your web application. So you have a web application firewall which is actually for a SOAP. And there is a tool which is called Web2Wall, which is essentially a tool for 2.0 defense, where you can do a JSON filtering, where you can do a SOAP filtering as such, and you can set up the rules for it. So over here, a little demo of Web 2.0 wall. What we have here is an application. Here is a simple code where I'm grabbing patterns which I'm looking for. Then this is a code where I'm hooking the code to the HTTP pipe. I'm grabbing my INF file where my rules are residing. And over here I have getting the post envelope. So like a post in which the SOAP envelope is residing. I get that, and if I get any pattern matching, then I send a security error back. So over here, this is a get quote method. For example, I am sending IBM as one of the stock which I am looking for its quote. I send IBM, I get what I get back is 25.32, and now I try for a single quote or a double quote, and it will give me a security error because it is tracked right at the module level before it hits to my application layer, and vulnerability will not get exposed. This is a quick fix. Actual fix is definitely a secure coding. So that is it, and that's pretty much it. I'm pretty much done. Thank you very much for listening me patiently. If you have any question, let me know. Any question? Yeah, please.
Are these tools online?
Yeah, they are available on.
Are they open source to be extended?
Ruby is open source. Others are written in .NET, so they are not open source. It is like not hardened. So if you go ahead and decompile it, you will see the code. I haven't locked the code and I haven't added obfuscation to it or such. You just open in a refactor and you will be able to see SOAP code. Okay, thank you.